Hello and welcome. For our topic today, we'll be discussing housing in ancient Egypt during the Middle Kingdom era.
But let's start with some background information first. Ancient Egypt, as most know, was located in the northeast part of Africa along the Nile River. Ancient Egyptian civilization began as a result of its proximity to the Nile. Now you may be asking yourself, why is housing important? Well, for a number of reasons. First off, housing provides a shelter from the elements and allows for the storage of goods. The storage of goods being an important factor of ancient Egypt, given the flooding cycles of the Nile and a need to house grain during the off-seasons. It was also important because the landscape and resources along the Nile River were not your typical building blocks for housing. There was a distinct lack of lumber due to the missing presence of forests in ancient Egypt.
Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the housing along the Nile River in ancient Egypt and the two different housing structures that were developed. Housing along the Nile River in ancient Egypt started off with reed huts. Reed huts were the first type of homes that were built in the pre-dynastic period. The huts were built out of animal skins and papyrus seeds and were typically small in size. Mud brick homes were developed immediately after the reed huts. This was mainly due to the Nile River washing them away. The mud houses were created in order to be sturdier than the prior reed huts. The Egyptians would mix reeds and sand with mud to form a stronger composite. This was to make them more sturdier. However, mud homes in ancient Egypt were simple structures for the poor residents. The wealthier families and upper-class citizens of the community would build a second floor to the brick homes that would be accessed via a ladder or a stairway.
Temperatures during this time period would reach well over 100 degrees, so windows were designed in a rectangular shape so that the house could cool down. Additionally, the middle-class citizens would build canopies to help block out the sun. Now looking specifically at the Middle Kingdom era, we see that there were various types of living quarters constructed. Not much is known about housing from this era, as most of the information we do know comes from drawings and soul houses. Soul houses were little pottery trays, which depicted courts filled with offerings and a representation of a house in the background. Soul houses were small in form, however, and so they were limited in the information that they could provide. Given how densely packed cities could be, archaeological finds often depicted a style of housing known as back-to-back housing. An example of this can be found in the Egyptian city of Thebes. In Thebes, housing was designed much like today's current town housing. The house consisted of 3 floors and a roof space. The offices were located at the front of the house. A stairway was located near the entrance of a house, and the ground floor was typically assigned to the servants. The granaries would be placed on top of the roof, as well as possibly the ovens and a cook's pantry for meat. The townhouse was not the only type of house built in the Middle Kingdom era. 2 other types of houses were the 3-row house and the courtyard house. These houses were between the size of 50 to 75 square meters large. As the images show, these were more typical style of housing that would be used for the common person. The houses that the wealthy owned were much larger than that of their poorer counterparts. Looking at a specific elite house, which was found on an excavation site at Tel El Daba, we see a much larger residence. The house covered an area of 4,000 meters squared. The building consisted of multiple structures, connected via doorways and corridors. To give you a better understanding of the difference in size between the rich and poor, take a look at the following image. As you can see, the size between an elite residence and that of a typical mid-sized house is vastly different. We hope that this video leaves you better informed about the housing during the Middle Kingdom era. While we couldn't cover everything in full detail, we hope you enjoyed it nevertheless. Thank you.